Hey everybody, it's Andy. Welcome to my weekly show where I help you build a career you love. And while I love to think every week is special, today I've got something a little extra special for you. We're going to talk about job interviewing, and in particular, I am going to give you my top 5 lessons from my first book, Interview, Intervention, Communication That Gets You Hired. And if you are not familiar with me or this book, since I developed the job interviewing methodology that I've packaged into this book, I developed it 14 years ago. Since that time, I've been teaching it. People have been following it. And statistically, historically, people that have used these techniques in job interviews have outpaced other job seekers by 560% in getting hired. This stuff works. And the wonderful thing about today's show is all the stuff I'm going to talk about, all the points I'm going to go through, all the techniques that I'm going to breeze through, you can get, because at the time we're recording this, this book is free. The hard book is free, the ebook and the audiobook. You can get this anywhere in the world if you want to pay $7 shipping and handling. So anything that I run through today, if you want more insight on it, get the book. I am very, very excited about today. It's going to be a little bit different, it's just always special to me anytime I talk about this. So I've got the 5 key points. I got my note cards. Let's roll. All right, so the first main point is in chapter 1 of the book. And actually, chapter 1 is titled, "The World Actually Does Revolve Around You." And these are things that I don't see people doing nearly as often as they should. And I'm going to spend a little more time on number 1 here than some of the others because I think it's really important that we make sure that we get off to a great start. But the first big lesson in the book is you need to take stock. You need to take stock. And we're going to talk about some different things you need to take stock of. By the way, if you thought I was going to come to this show today and hit you with 5 points and run, well, that's just some silly thinking. I got 5 lessons, I got a bonus, we got 22 subtopics, and I got note cards this thick. So, number 1, take stock. But what do you got to take stock of? What do you got to take stock of? You got to take stock of your current situation. Your current situation. How many of you, I want you to think, I want you to look at yourself, well, keep looking at the screen, but think about it. Take a look in the figurative mirror for a second. How many of you, when you're job searching, now I know some of you are employed and you're looking for work, and some of you are unemployed and you're looking for work. But regardless, how many of you, or have you individually, sat down and thought about everything that you currently have? So if you're employed, what do you have now? If you were recently employed, you're no longer employed, what did you have most recently? So what in your current job did you have, or do you have? And really think through that entire list. It's a great starting point. First off, it'll help you appreciate what you do have. Let's take Kara, for example. For those of you who don't know Kara, she's got the blue wrench. She's my trusty partner. She's always with me. She works with me. A lot of you Mile Academy members know her pretty well. She's got an awesome boss, right? She's got great flexibility. She has major impact. She is a seat at our table. She's influential in helping me create and design these programs for you. There's a lot that she has on her list of haves. And some of them she loves, some of them she will always need. Same thing for you. Think about everything that you actually have, because it's easy to forget and take for granted the things we have. And as we make a change, lots of times we naturally assume that those things will be there. We take this for granted. So I want to make sure that you assess that current situation and you make a list of what you have. And even if it's real sweet gravy stuff, that's fine too. Just make sure you truly understand. And we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into this. And not only do I want you to take a look at what you have, I also want you to take a look at what you need. So some of what you currently have, you might need, and some of what you currently have, you might not really need, but there might be some things missing that you also need. Now, when it comes to needs, if you've had a chance to check out my job search masterclass. It's a 3-part video series. It's available. The link is in the description. Kara, if you can, maybe put the link out there for people so that they have it. It's also in the description. I'll put it in one of the cards when this is recorded. But the first video in that program goes into great detail about how to identify your needs. I give you some tools and things that you can use. And I also give you a workbook that highlights the 15 most common needs that people have. And I got those 15 needs from all of the recruitment that I've done over the years. I run a search firm called Mile Walk, and of all the people that I and the team have interviewed, that's more than 15,000 people, we've collected data of what people in general need, and I've packaged that up for you, so you might want to check that out. But make sure you take stock of what you need. Now, the third thing, and I see some people being a little bit careless with number 3, this one here, timing considerations. Now, some of you may be unemployed and you need a job, and timing is critical, and you need to find that job. I get that. But a lot of you are already employed, and you are either passively looking or maybe very actively looking. But pause for a second and just make sure that the timing is really good for you to make a move. It could be anything. You might be thinking about having a baby. Your spouse, your wife might be pregnant. You might be adopting. You might have a bonus coming up. You might have a vacation coming up. You might have a review coming up. It could be anything, any number of things. You might have tuition reimbursement that your employer paid that you would have to pay back if you leave sooner than a certain date. Could be anything. Maybe the kids are going back to school. Maybe you don't want to move in the middle of a school year. Whatever. Just make sure that you do consider the timing of things. And then another one that I see people, almost no one paying any attention to, and this is something that we address early on with all the people that we recruit in my search firm, is up front, before you start to look, are you assessing a counteroffer? Now, if you are unemployed, obviously this doesn't apply. But if you are employed and you're generally happy, maybe there's a thing or two that are missing. You have to think about, is there something my current employer could do to make me happy? Now, a lot of people, when I ask that question, they say, oh, no, my employer doesn't give counteroffers. And I always clarify, I said, that's not actually the question I asked. The question I ask is there anything your current employer could do to get you to stay? So think about it. You go through a process, you interview with a company, you get an offer, you sign it, you go back to your employer, you say, hey, here's my resignation, I'm out of here. And the employer says, oh, come on, you can't leave. What is it? Please tell me. You want more vacation days, you want the corner office, you want more money, you want more flexibility, you want some work from home time, whatever it is. Anything that is missing that you feel could keep you there, you need to think about perhaps having the conversation with your employer to make sure that they might not just be able to satisfy it. It is much easier for an employer to offer you a little bit more money than it is to think about this. You leave, they don't have anybody to backfill for you. They have to go and find somebody. That takes time. They might have to pay either a recruitment firm, or their recruiters now have to work on this. Or maybe there's an employee referral bonus. They have to train the person, get them up to speed, and so on. That's a very expensive proposition for them. So for them to give you a few more dollars is not such a big deal. Now, if you're interested in more on the counteroffer, I wrote an article about this a while ago. We'll put this link in the notes as well. But a counteroffer stuff is very bad. It's a very hairy situation. I could talk all day about counteroffers. I won't, but I'll put the link to the article on the Tips for Work and Life blog in the description, so you can check it out if you're interested in more on that. And then the fifth thing that I want you to take stock of, which a lot of people don't do, and it sounds silly, compensation. Compensation. Your compensation is not your salary and your year-end bonus. It's not just that. Sure, those are kind of the big ones you might know right off the top of your head. But if you get into an interviewing process, and I know there are some states and countries where the employer cannot solicit what you're currently earning, but whether they can solicit this or not, regardless, you have a mental number in your head. And throughout the process, you might be communicating this information. When you get down to the end and the employer gives you an offer, and here's $85,000 and a 10% bonus, and you currently make $80,000 and have no bonus, and that's what you asked for, and the employer gave it to you, and then you start thinking about the vacation days, the healthcare costs, the 401k match, your incentive stock options, whatever it might be, you are not going to be in a position, or it's going to be a very uncomfortable position when you say, hey, well, I was only paying $200 a month at my current job for healthcare, and now I have to pay $800 a month. That's $600 a month. That's $7,200. The $5,000 that you gave me doesn't even cover the $7,200 more that I have to pay. So you want to be crystal clear on what you really have financially, and I have a little download for that. It's a wonderful one-page cheat sheet. It covers all the areas that you need to consider, everything that I just mentioned, but even things like car allowances and tuition reimbursements and training dollars and all that other good stuff, telephone coverage, that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that you truly understand what it is that you get paid financially or what it means to you. So that's very, very important. All right, so that kind of encapsulates lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is the entire reason the book was written. The entire reason I wrote Interview Intervention was that the issues that I was seeing that were present among job candidates that we were coaching, corporations, the hiring companies that we were working on behalf of, the interaction between untrained interviewers and very solid job candidates. And the thing that I noticed was that the reason that you get the job is very distant from what people normally think. Your qualifications get you the job interview. Your resume gets you a job interview. But beyond that, you have to consider that everybody in the process is likely qualified. So you're qualified as a job seeker in somebody's recruitment process, but so too are the other job seekers. So what ultimately determines who's going to get hired? Well, lesson number 2 is there's 3 reasons why you get the job, and they have to do with communication. So assuming that you're all qualified and all things being equal, which job candidate is ultimately going to get the job? Well, there's 3 reasons you get hired. Let's run through those pretty quickly. The first one is your ability as a job candidate and interviewing with the company to articulate your fit and value. So the first thing is you get asked a bunch of questions in the interview. You are articulating your responses, but those responses need to be covering why the employer is hiring in the first place. So what is it that the employer needs? What's the employer's gap? We call it selling to the gap. Basically, if you can solve somebody's problem, you become their hero and they hire you. So the person who can most effectively dial in how she fits what they need and the value she will contribute, and we call this encoding your message, can encode their message effectively, has a leg up. But it's not just about saying it perfectly. How many times have you been in a conversation where it's coming out of your mouth, you think you're articulating it perfectly, but the other person isn't getting it? So the interviewer has to decode what you say. So just because you said it perfectly doesn't mean they got it perfectly. So the interviewer has to decode what you said, and they might misunderstand what you said. So there are communication issues that arise for many reasons because they didn't decode it properly. And the third element of what you need to understand is it's not just that they heard you properly, but the interviewer has a capacity to remember you because these interviewing decisions do not happen in real time. So the job candidate who can most effectively articulate her fit and value, to an interviewer who understood her, who also remembers her in the right light. The interviewers never remember the specifics of what you tell them. They always remember how you made them feel, and they plant little breadcrumbs in their mind that they have to recall in the future when they're assessing. Think about it. These hiring decisions don't happen in real time. What does happen in real time is the decision not to hire you. But assuming you got the goods, assuming you're responding effectively, you'll be on your way. You just need to make sure that they recall you properly. So how do we make sure that we do those things? And we're going to talk a little bit more about the techniques. And if you want more on all those communication issues, the 8 different communication issues that arise, the biases that are present in the parties that are speaking to each other, in addition to the interview intervention book, which you can grab, I also did a 1-hour video on 3 keys to ace any job interview. I go into great detail about these 3 points, the 8 communication pitfalls or tripwires, whatever you want to call them, and I clarify why they're present and what you can do about it. And let's talk a little bit about that. The third point that I want to run through, I call it storytelling. Okay, now this is nothing more, that's my vernacular, but basically when you respond to the questions that you were asked, you're asked a couple of different types of questions. You're either asked questions about your past, in which you need to tell how you did something, thought something, felt something, or whatever. Or you're asked questions about your future, which are more simulation type. How would you handle this situation in our environment? So they either ask you about your past or they ask you about your future. Whichever one it is, you have to give them a response in the form of a story, how you did something or how you will do something. So in order to tell effective stories that help you articulate your fit and value correctly, make sure they can decode you correctly, remember you, like you, believe you, and all the things that you need them to do, there are, in the book I go through six different steps. Today we're going to go through 5 key ways that you can tell stories that are believable, memorable, and get them to like you. The first one is, no, you don't need to kiss me. You blow me a kiss if you want, or you can blow me a chat kiss. Keeping it short and simple. So it's very tempting, right, to want to tell them about your greatness and all the things and the glory that is you. But when you are responding, you want to make sure you are sticking to information they need to know and can supplement that with any follow-up questions that they might have. But you want to keep your response tight. That's not really hard to understand. We all want to be crisp and clean. And this is a little bit more difficult. You've got to capture and keep their attention. Don't think for 1 second that you actually have somebody's attention in the middle of a day at 11:18 on a Thursday in the central U.S. If somebody is sitting across that table from you, they are likely paid to do something other than interview you. So they have a job. They have deadlines, they have a boss, they have customers, they have teammates. All this stuff is going on in their head while they're trying to interview you and assess your skills and your capabilities and all that other good stuff. So you need to be able to capture their attention, and once you have it, you need to keep it. Now, there are different ways to do that. I go into all that stuff in the book. I also go into that in 3 Keys to Ace Any Job Interview. But you got to make sure that you are in tune with them, that they are listening to you. You have to realize just because they're sitting there and they're looking at you does not mean they're necessarily paying attention. They probably got a lot of distractions. And it's even worse if you can't talk in their language. So you've got to make sure that you're using the proper lingo or the proper language. And while this may sound obvious, this is one of the more difficult things to do. Why? Think about this. And I know a lot of you are seasoned vets out there. Can you even remember what it was like not to know what you know? It's so difficult for me as I come to these talks every week and I shoot my videos and I build my training courses. I can't remember what it was like not to know how to job search. But I have to consciously think about, if I'm you, how do I have to package and articulate this? So it's the same kind of thing. If you're a technologist talking to an HR person, or you're a technologist talking to a senior exec, how are you going to adjust your language to make sure you're hitting the mark so that they actually understand you? Very, very important. And then rolling on number 4, while talking in their language might be a little hard, getting them to believe you should not be. This should be one of the easiest things that you need to be able to do. Now, you've got to have trust, you've got to have credibility, and one of the easiest ways to gain that in an interview is the way in which you package up the sequence of your stories. So you want to make sure that as you are responding, there's a beginning, a middle, and end. It kind of flows in time orientation. You're not hopping all over the place. And that you also are very precise and specific about the details that you include in the story. The more precise your metrics are, the story steps, whatever it is, the more believable it is, because the people who have lived through these projects should know them and remember them. And I realize some of these projects that you're discussing in your job interview happened 10 years ago. If it's on your resume, it's fair game. So I suggest that you go back and you really think about what was going on at the time. As a matter of fact, one of the things, and I didn't put this in the description, maybe Kara can plop this into the chat, is I have a career achievements journal which highlights 14 different elements that you should capture from every project that you do that will, number one, help you remember it and have a wonderful journal as you go through your career, especially if you're getting promoted and those kind of things. You want to make sure you understand the impacts, but also as you populate your resume and as you tell the stories in the job interviews like this. It's a wonderful tool. It's just a simple download. I have a video on it as well. You can go check that out. But you really need to make sure that you can recall the details and the specifics of what was there. And then to round it out, this is your home run right here. If you do the first four and you get them to care about you, you're golden. Now, to get them to care, what's the easiest way to get somebody to care about you? To show them you care about them. How knowing you, having you at their company is going to make their lives better. So you need to be specific with the different types of interviewers that you're likely to have, whether it's a superior or a peer or somebody on your level or a subordinate if you're a managerial resource. How are you going to make their particular lives better and the impact that your stories are going to have on their lives? So that's number 3. Now, rolling on to number 4, let's shift this kind of to the other side of the table. You get what you ask for. You get what you ask for. So now we're venturing into the territory where you are given an opportunity to ask questions. So when you ask questions, there's a number of things you need to keep in mind. The first thing that should be going through your mind when you're asking a question is not, I need to get information. I know that's why you think you asked the question and why most people think they asked the question. I think it's to continue selling yourself. So if you think about the way you design your questions, you need to be able to roll into the question the type of research you did, the astute observation you made that bred a question in your mind that you are now going to ask. So you always, anything that you do, anything that you say, anything that you don't say, anything that you tell, anything that you ask, everything that you do in the entire process from the time you fill in the application is selling yourself. So you have to think about that. Always think about that first and foremost. There's plenty of times throughout the entire process for you to ask questions to get the information you need. And let's talk about that. Second thing is, you got to get what you need. So you do have to get the information. You do have to get the information. So I use this word, here we go. I use this word on purpose, your needs, what you need specifically, not what I could have said what you want to know, but it's about your needs. Every time you ask a question, and everything that you do and you observe in the process, in an interviewing process, is designed to do 2 things. You are trying to elicit information, number 1, to determine if it's a good company, and number 2, to determine if it is a good company for you. For you. Those are not always the same things. It could be a good company, it just might not be a good fit for you. Okay, so every time you ask a question, you need to make sure that you're getting the answer to both of those questions. That's what you're trying to do. So the easiest way to get at what you need is going back to the first step that I mentioned, taking stock, identifying your needs, and then using those needs to spawn questions that you are going to ask so that you're not hopping all over the place. You've got a nice flow and a nice sequence to them, but you make sure that you've got an inventory of questions that are going to help you determine if it matches what you need. That's one element. The other thing about asking the question is you not only need to get what you need to get it quickly. You need to get it fast. Okay, and why is this important? Well, a couple of reasons. The faster you can get the information you need, the more time it frees up to get more information you need. The more information you get, the more educated your decision about taking that job. Because we know you're going to get the offer because you're crushing it with these techniques. So you want to get it as quickly as possible. Easiest way to get it as quickly as possible is as you're asking your question, to be very specific about the information you're looking for. The more open-ended your question, the greater the likelihood that the interviewer misunderstands why you want to know something or runs off on a story and goes off on a bunch of tangents. While they might include some information that's great for you to know, it's not specifically what you needed to know whether it satisfied your need or your criteria. And what does that do? It wastes a lot of time, and now you're left with a lot less time to ask subsequent questions. So you want to get it quickly. And the other thing that you want to make sure that you're mindful of when you're asking questions is, when am I going to use the information that they give me when I ask the question? So let's think about this. Whenever you ask a question, you're going to get information. Let's hope they give you whatever you asked for. When they give you that information, you have a couple of options of what to do with it. You can use it right away to sell yourself in the process, or you can take it home and think about it and talk to your wife and see if this is a good company based on that information, and ponder it. So let's talk about an example here. When I ask a question in an interview, if I ask you a question such as, what are the characteristics of the type of people who are successful in the role or have historically been successful in the role, and the interviewer gives me the response back, that we're looking for this, and this, or self-starters, detail-oriented, customer service focused, and so on, I can immediately use that information to sell myself right now. Right now, in the next breath, or in the thank you email I'm going to send them after the session, or in the next interview that afternoon, the next day, or whenever. That is short-term usage of great information that I now can give them back what they need, because that's why I'm a self-starter and so forth. Versus a question such as, well, what type of training opportunities will I have, and what type of training programs will I be put through or have the opportunity to take? That's great information. I want you to ask the question, but you're going to use that information later. You're just going to ponder it. It's just going to go into whether this is, a great overall package for you. So the equality and the benefit of having the information sooner matters on stuff that you're going to use sooner. So that rounds out the asking the questions part. And then number 5, I want you to absolutely close like a pro. And I'll tell you the biggest mistakes that I see people making at the close of the interview and what you should do. You thought the interview went well. Think about this. How many times have you thought an interview went great or pretty good, only to get called or emailed to say, didn't work out, and you're scratching your head? Well, let me show you some ways that you could, if not have diffused that, at least recognized it at the moment of the interview that something like this was likely to happen. So let's talk about that. How do you close like a pro? Well, what do pros do? They leave no doubt at the end that they are the right candidate for the job. And leaving no doubt takes a couple of steps. Now, you have to make sure that they have no doubt about you. So one of the best ways to do that is throughout the process to make sure that you were following the techniques and implementing the storytelling principles and making sure you were mindful of potential communication issues and all that great stuff. Okay, so if you've done all that effectively, when you get down to the end, it's a little bit of a cleanup time. You got to make sure you're making absolutely sure that you're going through your checklist again right before the interview breaks. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to ask, do they have any reservations about hiring you? So I know we've been talking for an hour. This is all great and good. This is basically the second to last thing that you want to do. Do you have any reservations about hiring me? And you need to ask it in a closed form like that because you ultimately need to surface the reservations. If you leave it open-ended and you say, well, is there anything else more that you need to know about me? Is there anything else I can add or anything I need to send you as a file? None of that stuff works. None of that stuff works. It's you may as well not even utter the words. So if you are trying to get at the reasons why they will not hire you, and the reservation will come in one of 3 forms. They will either have misunderstood something that you said, one of the communication issues, you told them a story, they didn't decode it correctly, And now you have a chance to clarify it right at the end so they don't go to bed angry, so to speak. Or they drew a false assumption about something that they didn't even ask you about. So you have to realize, right? These interviews are short. They're an hour or they're less, and you've got to jam in a lot of information in a short amount of time. So what are the interviewers doing? They're extrapolating. They're using their biases. They're making assumptions about whether you can do something or have done something. So because they can't get to everything, they have to make some assumptions about you and whether you can do certain things. In the absence of information, people draw their own conclusions, and it's always bad. When was the last time somebody assumed positively? But we want to get them assuming positively about you, but if they made a false assumption, what can you do now? If there's a reservation because they say, well, I wish you would have had a little more experience in this area, you can now clarify it, even if it wasn't on your resume or they didn't ask you about it. You now have a chance at the end to catch it. Or third, what's the third type of reservation? It's a reservation. It's an actual problem. If it's an actual problem, what do we want to do with it? Number one, I want to know it. And number two, I want to take a few moments right there to dampen it and to let them know that they shouldn't worry about that. And you don't need to use those words, but you can tell them, well, even though I haven't done that yet, here's what I have done. Here's how I educate myself and get up to speed. Here's the plan I put in place to make sure that anytime I encounter something that I haven't done before, this is what I do. Now, all of a sudden, they're not as worried about the reservation because they know that you have some analogous experience and you have an approach that you will implement should you encounter that. It's going to make them feel better. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect of closing is I have this little technique. This is really an acronym, but it's really for me. I call it. I want you to confirm, assure, and close. CAC. So first thing I want you to do after you ask the reservations question is to make sure that you are confirming your understanding of the role to the employer. This is where they need to be reminded that it's okay to hire you. No one wants to make a decision anymore. You're trying to make them feel better about the decision you want them to make. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that they feel that you understand what you're getting into and that you're the right person for the job and that you're very interested. So first part is I want to confirm that I understand that this is what you're looking for. Literally spit back a sentence or two of the job description or however they describe the job to them. That's the first thing. Second thing is once they say, okay, you got it, say, okay, well, I want to assure you I'm the right person for the job because, and then remind them of why you are the best candidate for the job. Because I have X number of experience doing exactly that thing that you need me to do, and I've seen it at 3 different companies and so on, whatever it is. And then the third thing that you want to do is you want to make them feel good about your interest. So I want to confirm that I want to close up with, I'm interested in this role. I'd love to know what's next. What's the next step in the process? You always, 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 always want to ask that. And if they are a person of authority and can make a decision, they will tell you, or you will at least know how they're feeling. If they are somebody who cannot make that call, maybe you've been through a day of interviews and they're the 5th or 6th person that you're talking to. If they don't know or they can't make that decision, you can at least ask them what would normally occur for somebody who's moving on in the process. What would be next? You always want to get that information. You always want to get that information because you want to know. Every week, week in and week out, I always get asked a question about, how long should I wait and all this good stuff. If you ask these questions, you'll have a much better indication. So you want to make sure that you're closing like a pro. So we went through the 5. So you want to make sure you're taking stock. You want to make sure you understand 3 reasons why you get the job. It has everything to do with communication. You want to make sure you're telling the right stories. You get what you ask for, so make sure that you're questioning them properly. And the 5th thing is you want to close like a pro. Now, I have a bonus because I would never talk about interview intervention or any kind of interviewing if we did not talk about giving thanks. Thank yous, thank you emails, thank you phone calls, thank you letters, thank you whatevers. This separates candidates that are close. People that are continually marketing themselves throughout the interviewing process with fast and thoughtful thank you emails are the ones that get the job. So in addition to making sure that you're articulating your fit and value, you're telling the right stories, all that good stuff, you have to assume everybody else is able to do that. So after every interview, there's a couple of things about the thank yous that I want you to keep in mind. And I have loads of videos on thank yous and templates and all that stuff's in the description. But one of the things you want to make sure that you do is you do it quickly. So there's two elements about a thank you. It needs to be speedy. So you should respond within 24 hours. If it's Friday at 5 o'clock, that means by Saturday at 6 o'clock, you need to send them an email thanking them. And I'm not going to go into all the stuff about it, but I do want to highlight that there's one other element about the thank you that is important in order for it to work. It needs to be thoughtful. So if you send something within 24 hours or 2 minutes and it only says, hey, thanks for your time, looking forward to hearing from you, that's not thoughtful. It's fast, but it's not thoughtful. So what makes it thoughtful? Thanking them for their time. You want to make sure that the thank you actually thanks them. The selling part. What did I say? Everything that you do, every facial expression, every gesture, every non-gesture, everything that you do, every email that you send, every letter you write, whatever it is, contributes to your ability to sell yourself, or you should be. This is an opportunity for you to highlight why you're the best person for the role. That's the second part of the thank you. And the third thing that you want to do is you want to confirm your interest. So I'm excited. I'm more excited. You're the best thing I ever saw. Whatever you want to say, I give you the template. It's also an interview intervention. And so those are the kind of the 5-6 things that I wanted to run through.